One of the things that's interesting about Challenger over the years is that idea of take control, which is still, laid out, I think, hopefully pretty clearly in the book, has come to mean lots of different things to lots of different people. And frankly, in some companies, it has come to take on frankly, almost the exact opposite of what we originally intended, and more importantly, what the original research indicates. The whole idea was, in many ways, originally was to coach customers to think differently about their business, show them the way to make money, save money, and therefore by taking control, what we meant is to offer a perspective rather than simply to request a perspective. That's all it really ever meant to begin with. Where we've evolved and where we are today is actually in a completely different place in some ways that I think is so much more powerful, and it's absolutely certainly far more aligned to where customers are today. So the Framemaking sale takes as a starting point just reality, which is the reality of B2B commerce today is customers are really struggling. They are just deeply overwhelmed with decision complexity and information overload and objective misalignment and outcome uncertainty and just trying to get decisions done. And so one of the things we know from our research, and hopefully from the Framemaking sale, is that the research indicates that in this kind of environment, perhaps not surprisingly, the number one driver of a high quality, low regret purchase by far, is the degree to which customers report a high degree of confidence in the decision that they're making on behalf of their company. And that matters because confidence is at a low point right now. But the crazy thing about this idea of customer decision confidence is it turns out as you dig into the data, it's not confidence in you that matters and your value and your people and your products, but rather customers' confidence in themselves and their ability to ask the right questions, do enough research, thoroughly explore alternatives, align with each other, realize value. And in many ways, to the degree that we're solving for customers' self-confidence rather than their supplier confidence, what that really means is we have to think about this idea of control in a very different sort of way. Because at the end of the day, one of the sort of this core ideas of framing that's so important is if we're solving for a customer's self-confidence, then this idea of what we call agency becomes really important. It becomes critical that customers are enabled effectively to come to their own decisions around what to do, how to realize value, what to prioritize, how to align. We can provide coaching and guidance and sort of framing, thus the idea of framing sale, to help increase the likelihood of them reaching that place and increasing their ability to arrive at those kinds of decisions. But our goal isn't to make that happen, but to enable that to happen. So in the world of frame making, it's less about taking control and more about enabling control, which is a really different way to think about it. Because what we're trying to do, rather than sort of assume agency in the sale, we're trying to create and provide agency, to create space for agency, and specifically customer agency in the sale. And I think that's just a really, really interesting way to think about it. It comes back to this idea, again, of trusted advisors. Not so much we're trying to become a trusted advisor. It's more that we're trying to become almost like a trust broker. We're trying to help our customers not trust us, but trust themselves. And so this idea of enabling trust and enabling control becomes such a critical part and such a differentiated part of what framing does that frankly nothing else out there is really focused on, because we're all so darn focused on solving for what customers think about us that we've just walked right past this massive opportunity to very purposefully and very systematically solve for what customers think and how customers feel about themselves. And we can do that rather than by taking control, but enabling it.